morning, everyone. Glad to see everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. This year is absolutely the best year that we've ever had. And it's not the highest sales year we've ever had, but it is the very best. And it's because we have the best leadership we've ever had. The leadership team is here this morning. It's also because we have the best sales force we've ever had. And you know why I say that? I looked at the numbers for all of the people that have been here any length of time from this year, and I can tell you that every salesperson that is here today had a better year than they had the year before. All of you made more money than you did last year. And some of you made a significant amount more than you did last year. And if you look around, I see some people are smiling, and you can kind of see the people that have big smiles. And yet, you know, they're just getting started. Next year's going to be even better. We're better today than we were a year ago. We're better today than we were 6 months ago. And guess what? We're going to be better in 6 months from now. The July meeting, we're going to be better next year than we are today. And needless to say, on those words, the profit sharing checks are much better than they ever have been since we started doing the program. I think they're all, thank you, Mom. You can clap, you can give her an applause. And that applause is for you because you guys did it. You and I, Kevin, and the team, the company, obviously is only as good as each of you are doing your best. And I want to thank you, really, from the bottom of my heart, for making this the best advertising and people development company, period. Thank you so much. I have a question for you this morning, though. And the question is, why are you here? And I don't mean just, I know you're here to get the profit sharing checks, but
we can't come up with a wizard.
And you're here to see my smiling face and Kevin's smiling face and to meet and greet each other. But the question really is, why are you here? Why did you decide to do this? And why do you get out of bed every morning? One of the reasons I asked that question, I recently read a book. Kevin always gets nervous. I come in some days and Kevin, I just read this book. I got this epiphany where, you know, we need to change the company and do all these different things. And he kind of rolls his eyes and goes like this, oh no, not again. But once in a while, we come up with some decent ideas. Of course, that's why I don't do anything without. That's one of the reasons I don't do anything without asking Kevin first. So I read a book. It's called Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And he's got a great video. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on TED.com. It's about 20 minutes long. And I encourage you to watch the video, the complete video, and I encourage you to read the book. But I want to show you the first about 4.5 minutes of that clip. And Tiffany got it for us.
How do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year after year, they're more innovative than all their competitions. And yet they're just a computer company. They're just like everyone else. They have the same access to the same talent, the same agencies, the same consultants, the same media. Then why is it that they seem to have something different? Why is it that Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement? He wasn't the only man who suffered in the pre-civil rights America, and he certainly wasn't the only great orator of the day. Why him? And why is it that the Wright brothers were able to figure out control-powered manned flight when there were certainly other teams who were better qualified, better funded, and they didn't achieve powered manned flight? The Wright brothers beat them to it. There's something else at play here. About 3.5 years ago, I made size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we're better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers, the biggest clients. We always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It has great gas mileage. It has leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You really buy a computer from me. All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. I want to tell you a story about an opportunity, a wonderful opportunity I had in 1979. I have to give you a little preface. In 1970, the United States government got rid of the gold standard. It used to be you had to have an ounce of gold or $1 worth of gold for every dollar that they printed. And they let that standard go by. And so what happened was they just began to print more dollars. Well, they had to deal with something they'd never had to deal with before, inflation. And if you study this at all, I'm not an economist, but from 1950 to 1970, gasoline was on average 19 cents a gallon, that entire period of time. From 1970 to 1979, it went from 19 cents a gallon to $1. Of course, now we know it's $3. And then in 1971, President Nixon was our president, and they were dealing with something that they had never done before because prices had started to just really climb. And he did what is called the Nixon shock. And they tried to fix it because they never dealt with it before. And what he did, he froze prices and wages for 90 days in 1971. Well, obviously it didn't work. So inflation started to keep climbing. Well, manufacturers saw that and they were threatened by it. So what they did to counteract it is they raised their wholesale and then they began to give rebates. So they would have a cushion in there. Well, everything was going up. I grew up in the grocery business. I had been in the grocery business and I'd been working in the grocery business. And people were coming up to me in 1977, 78 and saying, Roger, your prices are so high in these stores. It wasn't my stores. I was working for someone. And they started to tell me about these other stores in towns that were maybe 50 miles away. And they said, Roger, there's these other stores, and on a lot of stuff, they're 25, 30% cheaper than what you're selling in here. So obviously, I went to investigate to find out what it is. Well, it was a totally new concept. They were really challenging the status quo, like Apple does. By the way, I love Apple products, those of you that know. So it totally turned the grocery store concept upside down. And what we did is we took the meat department out, the fresh meat department, because it really doesn't make any money. It costs stores to operate. So we just threw that out. How could you run a grocery store without a meat department? We did. We did the same thing in the produce department. We didn't have any experts. We just brought things in that were very easy to move out quickly. We had small dairy departments, small frozen food departments, because that equipment costs a lot of money to run. So you get the overhead down. It was a box store concept. And in 1979, I had made enough money to open one of these concept stores. And on the grocery department, we only bought merchandise when it was on deal, because it would be every month, every 2 months, maybe 3 months, so we just buy enough to last that period of time. Essentially, we could sell it for cost and still make 20-25% margins. And boy, it took off like a rocket. Newspapers wrote articles about the stores. People traveled for miles to come and shop, and I would have retired people come in and say, "Oh, Roger, thank you so much. I don't know how I would make it without your store and these low prices." And it was such a great idea, and it was such a great concept. People that didn't even need to save money, they would come in and shop with me just because they loved what we were doing with the idea. Now, here's what happened. It's a great idea, a great concept. It worked fantastic for 2, 3, 4 years. I went out and bought another store. I did the same thing. But I did something that I shouldn't have. I started listening to my customers. And you think, well, when you're in business, shouldn't you listen to your customers? Well, in most cases, yes, you should. But here's what happened. See, I lost my why. I lost why I opened that store in the first place. It was to save money on groceries. And here's what people would say. Say, "Roger, I love your store. I love how you save money." And he says, "You know, you have just about everything I need in here except hamburger. Now, if you just put hamburger in, I wouldn't have to go to your competitor." And I heard that. Oh, okay. So I finally put hamburger in. Well, it didn't come pre-packaged then. You had to have a cooler. You had to have a grinder. Now you had to have something that was perishable, very perishable, you had to keep track of. And then the question was, gosh, if you just had chickens, well, how hard can that be? You just put a chicken in a bag, because they came ice packed this time. And then pretty soon as well, you just had a couple of steaks. Then pretty soon I had a full-blown meat department. And I had to expand, I had to have another case. And after a while, I looked down and I said, oh, what's happening to the cash flow? What's happening to the profits? And then, so I started having to offset that by raising some prices. And then it creeped over into the produce department. And then pretty soon I had more dairy cases and I had more freezers. And then in the grocery department they said, well, Roger, you know, if you just put this grocery item in, and even if it was the same price as your competitor, you know, everything else is cheaper. So I put in item by item by item. 2, 3, 4 years later, people started coming in, and guess what they started to say? They started to say, you know what? The sign out there says warehouse foods save money on your groceries. They come in and they say, you know what? I'm not saying that, because this is the same price as your competitor. This is the same price. That's the same price. And we weren't geared for service, because it was kind of a cash and carry, check your own things. And so I had all this overhead went up, and then my sales started going up. You see, I lost my why. You know, not saying you shouldn't listen to your customers, but I lost my why. If I had stayed with that same concept, I could have been Aldi's today. I don't know, but I lost my why. So it's so important to know what your why is. So again, the question comes up: what is our why? Why are we really doing this? Obviously, like Simon says, we're doing it to make profits. Here's what I believe our why is. I believe you're all here this morning to live the American dream. I think we're all on a course, and we are all after our American dream. I talked about it a little bit on the call yesterday. I mean, think about it. Think about the community that we work in. Not only are we after our American dream, how about the businesses that we call on? I mean, if you think about it, you know, they don't have ordinary jobs. They have franchises that they bought. They have their own personal businesses that they are working hard. Because what is the American dream? Somebody. Gary. There's no wrong answers. Denise. Denise, what's the American dream?
Well, I think for everybody, it's different. What do they say? 2.5 kids, a house with a big garage, 2 cars in the driveway, a picket fence. That's, American dream, I guess.
That is. Anybody else? Sometimes they say that work hard and you will succeed. Work hard and you will prosper. I don't like those 2 4-letter words, work hard. I would rather change that to do your best. Do your best and you will succeed. Do your best and you will prosper. Isn't that what we're all doing? Doing our best? Isn't that what our customers are doing when we call on them? And the people that own the hair shop franchises, the guy with the oil change place, the guy with the pizza shop that owns it, all of those independent business people are after the same thing we are, aren't they? I believe they are. Now let's take it one step further. How about the grocers that we work with? Right here in Kansas City, it's the Cosentino family's grocery stores. They've been working on their American dream for a long time. And how about the Ball's Foods family food stores? The McKeevers, even the Hy-Vees are employee-owned. We deal with the store directors. In Iowa, we have Fairways. Yeah, they are family-owned. So we are all working on our American dream. So for me, when I wake up in the morning, when I get out of bed, the reason I get out of bed in the morning, excited about the day, is because I have a sense of why I'm doing that. And my why is to help everyone I know reach out and work toward that American dream. To do my best to inspire people to do what inspires them. And I believe that is our why. So, people don't buy what you have, they buy why you do it. Moving on, I have another little clip and another question for you. Who are our competitors? Who do we compete with?
Nobody.
Tiffany has another video for us.
The race at one elementary school awakened a little boy so determined to stay in the race, even when it looked like he couldn't make it any further.
This ain't go. You ready?
It was race day at Colonial Hills Elementary School near Columbus, Ohio.
Go.
They were off, and right there at the back of the pack, 11-year-old Matt Woodford, determined to run with the rest of the class. But it wasn't long before Matt was trailing a bit. He had several calls and he was told he didn't have to run that race, that he could sit it out. But Matt wanted it. Making his way around that track, his proud mom videotaping the whole thing. Suddenly, Matt starts to slow down, starts to struggle. And watch the left corner of your screen. Right there, that's gym teacher John Blaine, walking toward Matt on the field. Soon, some gentle coaching right by his side. That gym teacher stayed right there the rest of the race. And then something else. His classmates begin to notice, and one by one, they start making their way toward Matt too. The crowd swelling beside him, and so does the chant. And rounding up final bend, his entire class in tow, every step of the way. Then his rally, teachers watching at the end, with cheers at the finish line. He did it. Afterwards, one of the hardly finding in the midst of all of his fans. A high five there, and a hug. That good sampling viral on the internet, and Matt told me just today on the phone what that moment was like. That entire class behind him.
It was tiring, but it really helped with my confidence and my position and everything that's going on. It was really encouraging.
Mom, who was there taking it all, and Dad, we saw it later. Oh, so proud of him.
I couldn't have been more proud of my son. It was very heartwarming.
Dad proud, and so are we. In fact, Matt told me if he had to race all again tomorrow, he would do it for sure. 808,000 hits now on that video on the internet.
Okay, so Matt has a a lot of lessons for us in that video, doesn't it? Probably lots of different things came to mind when you were watching that. Did you notice the first kids that were leading the race? And they were going fast. And of course, this video didn't show you the finish line, but I'm sure there were some people there watching them cross the finish line. Those first kids were competing against each other. They were competing against each other to win that race. Now Matt came along and he wanted to run the race. He wanted to finish. But you know what? He was competing with himself. And every time he races, he knows he may not be the first across the finish line. But he's competing to do his best against himself to better his numbers. Now you also noticed when the first kids ran across the finish line, and they were running, there were probably a few people at the finish line cheering them on. But when Matt got in there, you see when you are competing with yourself, everybody wants to help you. Everybody came to help Matt. When you're competing against something or somebody, it sets up a wave that pushes things away from you. In fact, you don't want to be against anything. You don't want to be against war. You want to be for peace. You don't want to have a war on drugs. You want to have a drug-free America. And you want to compete against yourself to be better. Kevin and I both learned a lesson, and we both decided quite a few years ago, 7, 8 years ago. We had a competitor in town, and I guess he still does a couple of stores, odd stores here and there. But we had a competitor in town, a lot of stores when we were getting started. And it was always in our way. He was always taking our customers and telling them different things. And, his standards weren't what ours are. And he slipped in and he took a Hy-Vee away from us. And it just made Kevin so mad. He said, gosh, we did a great job with that store. And he said, we got to do something about this guy. We got to call this guy up. We got to have a sit down face to face across the table and tell him how it is. We got to go in there and get a hold of the store director and tell him, what a bum this other guy is and how great we are. And we got to go talk to those advertisers and tell them, to watch out for this guy because he's a character. And the truth of the matter was, we wouldn't have been in there in the first place if we had been really doing our best to take care of that store. And from that day on, I think Kevin would agree with me. I'm looking at him now. We decided to be the best advertising company, and we have been on that track ever since. And again, thank you, all of you, because I think you all believe the same things we do. When you compete against yourself, when you're always doing your best, people will come to help you. Just like that. When I opened that grocery store, they shopped there just because of the idea. And then when I lost my wife, I want to finish. You guys are getting the Cliff Note version. Probably happy with that. When I meet somebody new, I always get the question, what do you do? What do you do? They want to know how you make a living. And I used to say, I used to start telling them what we did. I say, well, we provide grocery stores with registered receipt paper. We sell advertising on the back. You're probably familiar with it. This is how it goes. This is what we do. And that was fine. But after I read this book and watched it, what I tell them now is, I said, you know what? They ask me what I do. I say, I wake up every morning with a sense of why. And I do my best to help people reach their American dream. I do my best to inspire people to do what inspires them. I just happen to work with the best advertising and people development company, period. How do you think they react to me now? And then I get this other question, I'm sure you do too, a lot. Who's your competition? What do you say when somebody asks you who your competition is? Well, now I say, well, yeah, we have competition. I have competition. But it's me. I compete compete against myself. And they kind of, and you can say, you know, we're better than we were a year ago. We're better than we were 6 months ago. We're going to do better work 6 months from now than we are now. And we're going to be doing better work in 6 months and a year from now than we are right now. And you know what? I believe you're doing the same thing. I believe you're better than you were a year ago, better than you were 6 months ago. And you're going to be better 6 months from now than you are now. And that beat Bob in his head that, you know, is this kind of a habit? People think something's wrong with me because I'm doing this a lot. And I say, yeah. I'll say, you know, I'm looking for people that believe the same things I believe. That believe in America, believe in American, that believe in doing their very best. And you know what? I'd like to partner with you. I'd like to shake hands with you and work shoulder to shoulder with you to make this world a better place. What do you say? You know, it's so great to be able to be standing here in front of all of you that make this company great. And I'll say it again. Our company, us, we are only as good as each of you are. We're only as good as Kevin and Russ and Merle and Ed and Colton. And I want to say thank you for making this the best advertising and people development